Rice, and welcome to my workshop.
Just back from Knoxville. Got some subway tile for that upstairs bathroom. That contractor's making tracks. We gotta keep up. We need a fuming tent to fume that oak. Come on inside, let me show you what that looks like.
A bathroom vanity. Part 2. Let's build a fuming tent.
I've spent a good bit of time off camera dimensioning lumber, and it's gone pretty well. I have my oak behind me over here, and I've got my maple inside the carcasses. They have all achieved second dimension. We'll take them to final dimension as we get closer and ready to put things together. Now, one of the things that we need to do in the interim as we let this wood settle down for a little bit is we need to build a tent that we're going to use to fume the oak. We're going to fume the oak with ammonia, and that's an old technique used to put a nice gray color in woods that have a lot of tannins. Now, white oak is right up there. And why would you do that? Well, the fleck in white oak or any oak doesn't have a high tannin content. It has a low tannin content, but the regular wood has high. So you end up generating a huge contrast inside the oak, and it's very pleasant and it's very pretty. And that's where you get the term tiger oak, because it's striped. It's going to look great. So that's the process that we're going to use. We need a tent to put everything into. And I want a tent that I can use again, and I want one that I can store. So we're going to build this tent in a series of panels, and they're going to be roughly 8 feet long and 4 feet high. So I have the opportunity to use it again in the future for a different type of furniture. But for this, it's going to be more than big enough. Now I've got a sheet of plywood right over there, and my track saw is set up. Let's cut some strips and get after it. All the verticals need to be the same height. They need to be uniform. That will assure that the panels will fit together correctly. So that's what I have here. I have them already cut at 4 feet, right in the middle, close to. But what I've done on this side is I've gotten them finger aligned. So I can make this cut over here. If I'm a little tall, I think I'm going to be an inch tall, but I want to clear this defect right here, so I'll have this one to use if I need to. So at that point, we've got them all ganged up, so let's go ahead and make the cut. The same is going to be true with the 8-foot horizontals. We want to get the most out of these we can, and I have a support back there to make things a little bit easier. We're going to start doing a little assembly here, and I have chosen to use an overlay. This is a little piece of plywood, 1/4 inch, cut 45 degrees, 2 inches on either side, which will fit very nicely over top here. And that's how I'm going to secure these joints. We'll staple it up and be done with it. Now, I tried pocket holes. And to be honest with you, I prefer this method. It squares up great. But the problem is that this isn't solid wood, and that's really what pocket holes are intended for if you're going to put a lot of stress on them. Now, in the plane that the pocket holes were working, this joint was strong. My problem is that this frame is so long and lanky, I was getting out of plane bending, and that was destroying the joint. So I had a number of these things that broke up. So we're going to try something else. This will be both strong in plane and out of plane. And that's the reason for the change in joints. Now, we can only do one side here because the plastic's going to be on the other side and we'll wrap over the top. And that way we have something to clamp against. So we'll get started with this, glue a few up, and put this thing together. First thing to do is try to get it square. And as you might imagine, that's already happened. Second, let's put this piece in place to make sure I know where my boundaries are. Note that this one is unbottomed. That's on purpose. I know it seems a little much, but I want some glue in there primarily to get this thing to set up long term and be stiff. Now, you do not want this, you want this edge to be proud, not that edge, and that is primarily to make sure that there's nothing sharp going to get that plastic after I turn him over. Now see, when I put this thing down, it's going to be permanent. I'm using 1 1/4 inch staples. Now don't go past that this way, go this way now. And don't be shy with the staples. Well, I've got most of my panels in place and I've secured them with a few clamps just to see how this is working, and I'm pretty pleased. It's a lot stiffer than I thought it would be. When the plastic goes in, it will get better still. Now, part of this whole business is to have the minimum amount of exposure to the ammonia as possible. So I will want to put my wood inside of this tent and close it up completely, and then take the ammonia, pour it in a container outside the tent, open a small door, and put it inside. So let's look at that door. Well, we want our door to be as simple as possible, and that you can't get much simpler than 2 pieces of plywood. This top piece will be secured to the frame. The bottom piece will open up freely. 2 hinges will secure it. And note that I have put a groove in here to make room for the knuckle of the hinge. Otherwise, it won't do very tightly. So I want to take this, and my hinges are secured with the knuckle, and if I take a Vicks bit, I am assured of getting the screw in exactly the right place. I'll go ahead and put one in place. That will secure one side. And then I will go ahead and do the other one. And now I know that my holes are going to be steady. So we'll go ahead and complete this process and then get it incorporated in the frame. Be sure you put a chamfer on the door right here so it'll open. If you don't, it'll get locked in and it won't open when you get it in place.
I've got the blade angle set at anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees, and to be truthful at this point, I don't remember. But that's about all you need.
Well, I've been experimenting a little bit, and I'll talk to you about that in just a second. But I started with the one that has the door on it, and here it is. And it fits pretty tight. So I think that's going to be just fine. I do have my plastic in place here. It's 6 mil. That's plenty strong. But there have been some issues. I'm going to show you what we did to overcome them. Mostly, this plastic, it pulls out with these staples. So we have to do something a little different. And you've noticed I've got a lot of strips right here around the perimeter. So we're going to start on the other side, the opposite side. Let me show you the technique we're using to secure this plastic in place. Even with 6 mil plastic, I was having some pull out every time I had a staple go through it. So what I've done is I've come over the top, and I have this same strip right here. So I come over the top of that, and then I go under this strip, and that plastic comes out right there, and I staple this strip on it. And between the friction and between this holding a good grip on this plastic, I'm achieving very good stiffness results without worrying about pulling it out through the staple. The first step in the process is to put a 3/4 inch strip of 1/4 inch plywood right here, and just to make sure it lines up accordingly. Now we're going to use 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch staples. All right, I'm in place. Now, it doesn't have to be totally perfect, but if you can get a little bit of pressure on this, that'll help spread out some of the wrinkles that are inherent into the plastic. Fold him up. Get him in place. Make sure that you're there, and it is the same method as before. That'll make things real. Now I can trim this off here later with a knife. All right, this is just to show that we do take some time to try to get this to fold just right. When I put this thing together for the first side, this plate right here was supposed to match up right there. It was just too difficult, so I decided not to do it that way. So I put it on top of this plate, and it made all the difference. Now, when I take this plate right here and move it up next to it, I have a gap right there. Now, that's going to be easily fixed. All I have to do is take a 3/4 inch piece of plywood and put it right here, and I will staple that in place. Because this surface is so long, we're going to put a couple of strips in the center of this to kind of hold the plastic in place. It needs to stay on this piece right here. Well, we're assembled, and it is stiff, and part of that stiffness is due to actually the plastic. When you take a plastic and you stretch it tight across a frame, it acts as a membrane, and membrane stiffness can be quite substantial. That only works if the membrane is stretched tightly on the frame and stays. The method that I have used to secure this plastic to the frame is working flawlessly. And if you have to do this sort of thing in the future, I suggest you look at using a strip going up and under and a strip on top of that. It works very, very well. So we're assembled, and I've got just the minimum number of clamps around here, but what we will do when we finally get outside on the back porch and start fuming, I will take this masking tape, and where I have plastic on plastic, we'll run a row of tape across it to help keep even more of the fumes inside. I think this is going to get very tight at the end of the day. So once we start, I've got a few fans right here. That'll help distribute the ammonia evenly in the chamber, which is also quite important. All those things work great if you've got ammonia. Ours has been put on back order, so we still need to make progress, and we're going to shift gears. The vanity is in 3 pieces. Now those 3 pieces have to be joined together, and for this particular vanity, because the drawers and doors are inset to the frame, you've got to be a little careful. Your eye will pick up on that if all the horizontal lines don't match up perfectly. So when we assemble the 3 pieces, they need to be just right. Just right regardless of the floor. So basically what I'm saying is, I need this vanity, once assembled, to act like a single piece, even with the granite on top of it. So we're going to be looking at a way to marry up these pieces using something more than just a screw. Also, we're going to start putting the oak in the vanity. The rails need to be put in. I think we're going to go ahead and assemble the doors, and we may look at the drawer fronts, getting those cut to size. That indicates that this whole vanity is going inside this tent to be fumed, and that's fine because this tent is plenty big. So all that is in store for the next episode in Roby's workshop.